Good morning to our beautiful community and welcome to Light the Torch. My name is Ella and I am so honored to start this day with a conversation that invites us into the soul of poetry, identity, and deep ancestral memory. Our guest today is Arvida Svenske, a poet, writer, and journalist who's debuted English poetry collection. This is A Caribbean Wind, Polynesian Storm. It's a sweeping journey through landscapes, both personal and political. She brings us voices from Sapi, the Caribbean, the Pacific, and beyond, while also questioning everything from colonialism to gender norms. So, Arvida, welcome. It's a joy to have you with us.
Thank you. It's a joy to be here. Great words about my words. It feels surreal to have them out in the world.
That's amazing. And we are here to discuss a little bit more about that. So, let's start at the beginning. This comes from a background from yourselves. You've lived and studied in different cities, three very different cities. And I want to ask you, how did these places shape your voice as a poet?
Hmm. Good question. So I'm from Stockholm originally, the capital of Sweden, for those who don't know. And I wrote this particular set of poetry in another city called Malmö, which is the third largest city in Sweden. And I've also lived in Gothenburg, which is the second largest city of Sweden. So I have all three of the largest cities to compare with. And I think the difference was I grew up in the inner city of Stockholm, which is quite posh, quite privileged, and quite middle class. And in Malmö, it's less segregated and it's more visible, the different cultures that live there. I think they have like a tagline: we have more nationalities than the UN that lives there. It's a lot of different cultures coming together. And when I moved there, it was also my coming out period, and it was during the pandemic. So I questioned a lot that I had been taught when I grew up, and I also questioned a lot of things in myself. And during the pandemic, you had a lot of time to think, and you can travel with your physical body. So I traveled a lot in my mind, so to speak. And while reading up on colonialism and the global feminism, I also discovered the truth of my heart, as I call it.
I really like that you talk about that, because the place where you grow, where you learn a lot of things, shapes your identity in some way or another. So I like that you share that, in about the impact that it has on your voice as a poet. So that's amazing.
Sure.
And you also said that your 20s were about finding out who you were, and that discovery led you to poetry. But was there a specific moment when that realization, let's say, clicked?
Also a good question. I had one moment in when I was 21 and traveled in India, and a particular new voice emerged in me, and I put down a poem called "Bländad av livet, blinded by life." That was my first realization that I had become a new person, both as a poet and as a person. And it happened after about 6 months of traveling in India and Nepal. And I opened up my hotel door one morning, and the sun just came trickling down um, into the Fiva Lake, which we overlooked. And I saw the World Peace Pagoda. This was in Pokhara in Nepal. And I saw the mountains, the Himalayas in the background, and something dawned on me. So that was my first moment, and the second moment was actually when I wrote the title poem, "Caribbean Wind," "Karibisk vind" in Swedish. Um, I was in my room at home, but I had the same feeling that I have unlocked something new within me, and also it shows on the page that I'm writing that this is something new. I just discovered this, and it is very close from my heart to my hands to my putting it down. Um, so those are two very distinct moments when I unlock new features as a poet.
That's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And now that you mentioned that, I also want to ask about the name Eaglewood June, the Swedish one. This is a
Yeah.
poetic translation. You've questioned yourself. And I want to know what's the story behind this name and how do you think names shape identity as well?
Oh, yeah. My name means Eaglewood. It's Arvind. It's an old in Old Norse or something. It's a Viking name. It's an old name, and it means just Eaglewood. I don't know if that's very special in any way, but that's what it means. And my surname is Svenske, which means the Swedish one. And I think we're one of the few families in Sweden actually called that. It's very common in Norway, but it's not so common in Sweden. And it was taken by my great great grandfather, I think, when he was doing military service in Norway as the only Swede in his company. So he was called that, and he changed it to that. So I've always had a distinct name. In classes and stuff, people quickly learn my name because it's very distinct. But something was lacking because I didn't like the name as much. And when it dawned on me that I was in fact a woman, although born in a man's body, I wanted to change that. So I added an A to Arvida, so it became the feminine form, and I added Juni, which means June, because it's my favorite month. So it's a new name, but with a little extra spice to it.
I like that we are discussing about this because names have a lot to do with your own identity, and
Yeah,
also it has to do with the language you speak, both for your identity as a person and as a poet. And you know that this book, your new book, Caribbean Wind, Polynesian Storm, is your first full poetry collection in English. So, what moved you to write in English this time?
well, I it was sort of also an unlocking it somewhere in my brain that English became the not the only language, but the forefront language that I thought in, and I looked on a lot of English shows and listened to a lot of music. And during the pandemic, you were so locked into your proverbial cage. So it was, I think, a lot of the sentences that I heard during a day were English. So it's siphoned down, and it's also something that has happened since I was 6 years old, because you play TV games and you listen to music and you consume a lot of American mostly culture in different ways. But this was when I found the words, because I've translated it from scratch. I wrote it all in Swedish first, and then I translated it to English. And yeah, I think I found my voice in English as well. It's almost the same as in Swedish, but I have a lot of more sass maybe in my English vocabulary, and a few like memes and stuff like that, internet slang that has mixed into my more poetic language. So highs and lows becomes more of a flow, I think, in this collection of words.
I like that you said that you found your voice in English. That it's not simply as a translation. Like you have to
Mm.
find your voice in a language. It has
Yeah.
a lot to do. And now that you talk about these experiences in pandemic, and then when you were traveling, uh, I think that is important because this collection draws on histories and geographies from the Caribbean, the Pacific, Central Asia. So, what called you to these regions, and how did they come together in your work?
Yeah. So I've visited Jamaica, but that's the only place that I've been in the Caribbean. And I went there about 10 years ago, or maybe more, to write my thesis on LGBTQ coverage in Jamaican media. So while I was there, I talked to a lot of LGBTQ activists, and yeah, understood another perspective from, because Jamaica has been one of my like dream islands. I've listened to reggae for a lot of times. I've had Bob Marley posters on the wall, and I've dreamt to visit Jamaica. But this was another side of it that sort of planted a seed in me. And also, when I've traveled to Asia, has been also a couple of seeds that bloomed into this collection. Um, and Central Asia is, I guess, from reading up on the Soviet Union and the history of Russian colonialism. Unfortunately, a very actual topic today as well. And realizing that because we in Sweden have, for example, Samarkand, which is one of the biggest cities in Uzbekistan. It's sort of used as a dream city, the word for like El Dorado or something imagined dreamlike. And I realized that these cultures have been overshadowed for a long time by both Russian colonialism, first by the Tsarist Russians and then by the Soviets. So their history has been cut off from rest of the world, basically. And I realized that it's the same mechanism with a lot of Pacific islands and with the Caribbean islands as well. So I guess I'm curious to learn more about these cultures, because their cultures has been taught through other person's eyes, not their own. And it's still emerging new voices and new perspectives on these parts of the world. And that's very interesting to me, especially as a trans person, because of the gender norms that has been different in, for example, Polynesian culture. It's not one is this and one is that. There's a spectrum. And also the Native American cultures has two-spirit, for example. So there's a lot of hidden knowledge that we haven't yet uncovered. And I think that resonated with me. And as I understood the connection between LGBTQ plus people's history and the colonialist history, sort of emerged as well. So it's two worlds coming together, I guess.
Yeah, and that is really a very important part of your poetry, and I find it very interesting. So, you explore this less knowledge and gender beyond binaries. And how do you think, how does poetry allow you to process this and to reflect your own journey both as a person and as a poet?
Yeah, poetry allows you to travel very large distances in a very short space. So one line can be about me and how I wasn't allowed to choose my clothes as a young coded boy. And the next line can be about the border between Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And yet another can transport you to a Swedish park. It allows for great distances to be bridged. So for me, it was a new sort of playful way to process all these thoughts that I couldn't find another way to express, I think.
Yeah, and I do want to thank you for sharing that with us and for taking us on this journey today, for sharing your perspective about languages and the layers of identity. I think that the fact that this is their first major collection in English, it's very important and it's already resonating so deeply. So I believe everything you've shared with us means that your book is not only a book, but it's a reclamation, a poetic excavation of lost truths and emerging identities. So truly, congratulations! This is
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you. It's an honor to be out there with those words. It's a bit vulnerable, but it also feels very good to share it, because I truly believe in it and I mean it, and I think it's very necessary, and I hope it can affect people.
Yes, and also it's very important. Your voice is a force, and I know that this book will be a companion for many who are navigating their own paths of memory and liberation. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And now to everyone watching, you should know that Caribbean Wind, Polynesian Storm is available now. So go read it slowly, hold its words close, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded that poetry can still change the world. And now, until next time, keep your torch lit, your heart open, and your words brave. See you soon. Thank you so much for this time once again, Arvida.
Thank you so much.